In lesson 13, we're going to continue working on rounding to the nearest 10, but this time we're not just going to work with 2-digit numbers, we're also going to introduce 3-digit numbers, and we're going to show you how we can use rounding in conjunction with other types of word problems. So this video should be relatively short because, again, we're covering the same basic concept that we covered last time, so it's a little bit of a review, but follow along, and if you have any questions at the end, make sure to let me know in class. So let's start with a review of what we did last time. And we used vertical number lines. That was our tool. So let's draw one of those. Vertical number line there, and say we're going to round the number 52. So I would find the 10 below that. So 10 below. And I don't mean by that like subtract 10 from it. I mean like the nearest 10 that is below 52. So that would be 50. And the 10 above, or the next 10, is 60. So you could think about that for the 10 below. If I started counting down at 52, what's the next 10 I hit? It's 50. If I start at 52 and I count up, what is the next 10 I hit? It's 60. And we'll mark those here on our number line, 50 and 60. And then we find the halfway point, 55. I'm sorry, 55. And remember, anything, fives are really giving me a hard time in the last month or so. Anything that ends in a 5 or above, we're going to round up. And anything that ends in a 4 or below, we're going to round down. And 52, of course, is somewhere about here. And that falls obviously below 55. So we're going to round that down. So 52, I'm going to put that little line there, means it's about 50. So 52 is about 50, or 52 rounds to 50. And that's a review of what we did last time. And we can use that same idea when we round 3-digit numbers. So let's just do 152. Okay, so just because we have 3 digits, we're still rounding to the nearest 10. It doesn't change that much for us. So 152, if I start counting there and I count down, the 10 below is 150. So I'd go 52, 51, 152, 151, 150. 10 below is 150. Whoops, let's undo that and try again. And I'll put the 10 above. I probably should have switched these because above would make sense to be more on top, but 10 above, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160. So 160. And if it helps you to count up like I just did, that's great, but you don't have to. If you just know that 160 is the next one above 152, then that's fine. You can jump right to that step. And then we can still make a vertical number line for this. And we'll put our 160 at the top. We'll put our 150 at the bottom. And again, we're just finding the halfway point between 150 and 160, which is 155. We'll put 152 on here. Okay, the same rule still applies. If it's 155 or up, you round up. If it's 154 or down, you round down. Again, we're just looking at this last digit here, specifically at that one. Okay, we're looking at the ones place to decide which 10 to round it to. And 152 is very clearly below 155. So we would say 152 is about or rounds to 150. Let's do one more example like that with 3 digits. I think the confusion for kids is sometimes they round to the nearest 100 rather than to the nearest 10. So when they say find the nearest 10 from 152, some kids go right to, they say it's 100 and they say the 10 above is 200, but that's not the nearest 10, that's the nearest 100. So you really have to pay attention to which place in the place value chart you're changing. So there's our number line that we're going to use in a moment. and we're going to use the number 188. That's what we're working on. So I'll do it the right way this time, 10 above. So if I start counting at 188, what's the next 10 I get to? 189, 190. It's 190. And I can go and put that up here because that's going to be the top end of my vertical number line. And what's 10 below? Well, if I start at 188 and I count backward, the next number that ends in a 0 is 180. So that goes on the bottom of my vertical number line here. Halfway between these two things is 185. Remember that? That mark is always going to end in a 5 there, that halfway point. And then anything that ends in 5 or up, we round up. And this ends in an 8, so we'll put it right here. 188, and so that would round up to 190. 188 is about 190. 188 rounds to 190. You're never going, well, there's only one time that you're going to change the hundreds place when you're rounding to the nearest 10. Let me show you that situation. So if I'm working in the 100s, with one exception, it's always going to still be a number in the hundreds, right? So if I was rounding 102 to the nearest 10, it might go back, it would go back to 100, but it would still say in the hundreds. If I'm doing, let's see, 196, okay? I'm gonna have my vertical number line for that. And the 10 above, we start at 196 and we count up till we hit the next number that ends in a 0. So 196, 197, 198, 199, 200. The 10 below, well, you start at 196 and you count back, you end at 190. I can put both of those now on my vertical number line. So 200 at the top and 190 at the bottom. And 195 is the halfway point between those two numbers. I can put 196 right on here. Remember, anything that ends in 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you round up. Anything that ends in 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, you round down. So we look at this number. We look at if we're rounding to the tens place, or are we rounding to the nearest 10, we look at what's in the ones place to make that decision. So if you're rounding to the 10, you move over one place to the right and figure out, is that number 5 or above, or is it 4 or below? In this case, it's 5 or above, so we're going to go up. So 196 is about 200, or rounds to 200. That's the only time you're going to jump up to the next 100. So if you have something that ends in 96, 97, 98, 99, you're going to go up to the next 100. In no other situation, when you're rounding to the nearest 10, are you going to jump to another 100. So if you end in 89, or if you end in 57, or if you end in 43, you're not going to round any of those to the nearest, to a different 100 other than the 100 that you're in. The only time you're going to do that is if you end in 96, 95, 96, 97, 98, or 99. Again, if you end in 95, 96, 97, 98, or 99, you will round up to the next 100. You will not do that with any other number if you're rounding with tens. Let's do a quick little word problem here to show you how we can use rounding with word problems. So let's see. Hannah starts her homework at 4:06. She finishes at 4:31. How long did her homework actually take? We're going to figure that part out first, then I'm going to show you the rounding. Okay. So let's do that, and we can use subtraction to figure it out. So I'm going to say I put the bigger number on top. The end time goes on the top. 4:31 minus 4:06, right? So my end time minus my beginning time to find the difference, find how long she was doing this. If I have one of something, I cannot give someone 6 of them, right? If I have $1, I cannot give $6 to someone. So I need to go over here and decompose or break this apart. So I take the 30 and I turn it into a 20 plus a 10. And I add that 10 to the 1 over here to make it 11. So I had 31 up here originally, say. Now I have 20 plus 11, which still equals 31. 11 minus 6 is 5. 2 minus 0 is 2, or 20 minus 0 is 2. And 4 minus 4 is 0. So 25 minutes. Okay. Now, the second part of this question, and you'll see this on your problem set for sure, is round the amount of time she spent on homework to the nearest 10. Can't get the 0. There we go. So then I go and I draw a vertical number line. And I go through that same process like I was before. I say 25. And I'm going to skip the 10 above, 10 below thing. I'm just going to draw it right on here. So the 10 above is 30. Because if I started at 25 and counted up, the next 10, the next thing that ends in 0 is 30. And if I start at 25 and I count down, the next 10, or the next thing that ends in 0, is going to be 20. And 25, it happens to be right in the middle of those things. Okay, so I'm going to put a dot there as well. And remember, anything that ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, when you're rounding to the nearest 10, you round up. So 25 rounds up to 30. 25 is about 30. So she spent about 30 minutes on her homework if I'm rounding to the nearest 10. One last review, and then I will let you go when you're rounding to 10. So rounding to 10. If it ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, round up. Ends in 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, round down. So look at the ones place. Look at the ones place. If it ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you go up. If it ends in a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, you round down. And again, so when you're rounding to 10, you look at the ones place, figure out what number is there, and then make your decision. This is our second day on this. Plus, we've done some other work earlier in the year as well. I hope that you're developing a good understanding. If you have questions, as I said in the beginning, and as I say every video, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them for you.